7th would have never happened. Russia would have never hit Ukraine had the election result been called differently. It was a very bad call, but Russia would not have attacked Ukraine. October 7th in Israel would have never happened. You wouldn't have inflation. A lot of great things would have happened, but now you have millions and millions of dead people, and you have people dying financially because they can't buy bacon, they can't buy food, they can't buy groceries, they can't do anything. And they're living horribly in our country right now. With all of that being said, I think it's very important to have debates, and we've agreed with Fox on a date of September 4th. We've agreed with NBC, fairly full agreement, subject to them, on September 10th. And we've agreed with ABC on September 25th. So we have those 3 dates, and those networks, they're very anxiously awaiting that date and those dates. So we have September 4th, September 10th, and September 25th. We have spoken to the heads of the network, and it's all been confirmed, other than some fairly minor details. Audience, some location, which city would we put it into, but all things that will be settled very easily, I think it'll be very easy. The other side has to agree to the terms. They may or may not agree. I don't know if they're going to agree. She hasn't done an interview. She can't do an interview. She's barely competent, and she can't do an interview. But I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight. Why is it that millions of people were allowed to come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, insane asylums, even insane asylums? It's a mental institution on steroids. That's what it is. When you see the people that are coming into these are institutions that are being emptied out, not in South America, all over the world, including South America, all over the world. Prisons are being emptied out into our country because we have a president that's the worst president in the history of our country. We have a vice president who is the least admired, least respected, and the worst vice president in the history of our country. The most unpopular vice president, and because of political reasons or because of being politically correct, even though she never received a vote. Don't forget, she was the first one defeated, as I remember it, because I watched it very closely, but she was the first one. She never made it to Iowa, the first state. She never made it to Iowa. She was the first one that was defeated. She was the nastiest to him. She was nasty with calling him a racist and the school bus and all of the different things. She was very nasty to Biden. And shockingly, he appointed her, asked her to serve as vice president. Well, I don't know if he's happy about that decision right now. This was taken away. The presidency was taken away from Joe Biden. And I'm no Biden fan, but I'll tell you what, from a constitutional standpoint, from any standpoint you look at, they took the presidency away. And people were saying he lost after the debate. He couldn't win. Well, I don't know that that's true necessarily. But whether he could win or he couldn't win, he had the right to run. And they took it away. They said they're going to use the 25th Amendment. They're going to hit you hard. Either we can do it the nice. I know exactly because I know a lot of people on the other side, believe it or not. And they said, we'll do it the nice way or we'll do it the hard way. And he said, all right. So that, I mean, they've really taken, what they've done is pretty incredible. And now I'm running against somebody else, and we're leading. We're leading. So I'm not complaining. I'm saying for a country with a constitution that we cherish this constitution. To have done it this way is pretty severe, pretty horrible. You would have thought they would have gone out to a vote. They would have had a primary system. They would have done something. But to just take it away from him like he was a child. And he's a very angry man right now, I can tell you that. He's not happy with Obama, and he's not happy with Nancy Pelosi, crazy Nancy. She is crazy, too. She's not happy with any of the people that told him that you've got to leave. He's very unhappy, very angry, and I think he also blames her. He's trying to put up a good face, but it's a very bad thing in terms of a country when you do that. I'm not a fan of his, as you probably have noticed, and he had a rough debate, but that doesn't mean that you just take it away like that. Or you go out to a vote, you do something. He had 14 million votes. She had no votes. She got no votes. And I think she's crashing. I think when people find out, and I think people are starting to find out what a bad job she did, what a bad job she did on the border. She's trying to say she had nothing to do with the border. She had everything. She was appointed to head the border. And then they said, border czar, oh, she loved that name, she loved that name, but she never went there. She went to a location once along the border, but that was a location that you would love to go and have dinner with your husband or whoever. That was a location that was not part of the problem. That was not really going to the border. So essentially, she never went to the border. And if you listen to Tom Homan, if you listen to the great border people, Brandon Judd from Border Patrol, if you listen to Paul, I mean, so many different people. I speak to them all the time. And I did when I was president. We had the best border in the history of our country. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. Millions of people coming in, and our country cannot sustain it. Our country is going down because of this, because of incompetent people. So I just look forward to these debates. I think it's very important that we have them. I hope she agrees to them, September 4th, September 10th, September 25th. And I think they'll be very revealing. I think they'll be very revealing. Do you have any questions, please? I haven't recalibrated strategy at all. It's the same policies, open borders, weak on crime. I think she's worse than Biden because he got forced into the position. She was there long before. She destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed California as the AG. But as the DA, she destroyed San Francisco. A friend of mine, Bob Tisch, all know the Tisch family. He was in many cities with companies. He said the greatest city in the country is San Francisco. That was about 20 years ago. And he passed away a while ago, and he would be looking down and said, what happened? He thought it was the best city in the country. He had divisions there, lows. And he would be looking down in horror now when he sees she destroyed no cash bail, weak on crime. She's terrible. And yet they weaponized the system against me. They have me. I got so many lawyers. Now they want to delay cases. I won the big case in Florida. I won the big case. Nobody even wrote about it. The big case, the judge was a brilliant judge. And all they do is they play the ref with the judges. But this judge was a fair but brilliant judge. And as you probably heard, the big documents case, I won it. Now, Biden lost it because he didn't have presidential immunity. He didn't have the Presidential Records Act. He lost it. But the special, I call it prosecutor, special counsel, special prosecutor to me, he, appointed by him and appointed by Garland, he said the man's incompetent. He can't stand trial, but he can run for president. But we no longer have to worry about that because we have somebody that, in my opinion, is more incompetent. She couldn't pass her bar exam and lots of other things, and she should not be in a position. Because if she becomes president, our country is going to be a giant fail. It's going to fail. It's going to be a failure the likes of which this world has never seen. Yeah, please. No, how about you? You have to speak louder.
Okay, a big part of the strategy for your campaign before Harris became the nominee was appealing to black voters.
Yeah.
You were really going after. In polls, we really see Harris being go after that group. And I'm wondering how you are going to go after black voters now that she's the nominee and really winning them over.
Well, it changes around a little bit. I'm getting other voters. Perhaps, I was doing very well with black voters, and I still am. I seem to be doing very well with black males. This is according to polls, as you know. It's possible that I won't do as well with black women, but I do seem to be doing very well with other segments, extremely well with Hispanic. Jewish voters way up. White males way up. White males have gone through the roof. White males way up. Now, I don't know. All we're doing is giving you the stats that you have. It could be that I'll be affected somewhat with black females, where we're doing pretty well. And I think ultimately they'll like me better because I'm going to give them security, safety, and jobs. I'm going to give them a good economy. We have a very bad economy right now. We could literally be on the throes of a depression, not recession, a depression. And they can't have that. They can't have that. So I think I'm going to do well with everybody, especially when the facts are out. Yeah, please, in the back.
You're now leading the Jewish voters in your home state of New York. With that being said, what do you make of Kamala Harris not picking Josh Shapiro as her VP?
Well, I don't know. I know Josh Shapiro. He's a terrible guy, and he's not very popular with anybody. I think that this election maybe is better than Josh Shapiro would have been. But I think other than Josh Shapiro, I think she had some good choices. But Josh Shapiro is not one of them. He's caused a lot of damage with a lot of people. And I don't think he would have been better. I think he would have been maybe the equivalent, maybe not as good. But they had some people that they were looking at that were good, far superior to her. They actually had a story where they had everybody, including, they had like 10 people that she was looking at, and her. And they said she was the worst of all. In other words, she was the worst out of the 10 people and her. I don't know how that's going to work out. We'd like to do 3 debates. We think we should do 3 debates. We think Fox and ABC. And we also have CBS is going to do the vice presidential debate. So CBS will do vice presidential. And I have to tell you, J.D. Vance has really stepped up. He's doing a fantastic job. Say it.
Are you worried at all about the size of Harris's crowds?
Oh, give me a break. Listen, I had 107,000 people in New Jersey. You didn't report it. I'm so glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had 2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished. It's so dishonest, the press. And here's a great example. I had in Michigan recently 25,000 people, and 25,000 people we just couldn't get them in. We had in Harrisburg 25,000 people, and 20,000 people couldn't get in. We had so many. Nobody ever mentions that. When she gets 1,500 people, and I saw it yesterday on ABC, which they said, oh, the crowd was so big. I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size. And no, they never say the crowd was big. That's why I'm always saying turn around the cameras. I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's so terrible when you say, well, she has 1,500 people, 1,000 people, and they talk about, oh, the enthusiasm. Let me tell you, we have the enthusiasm. The Republican Party, and me as a candidate, but the Republican Party has the enthusiasm because people want to see crime stopped. They want to see a country that's respected. Think of it. If I were president, you wouldn't have Russia and Ukraine, where it never happened. 0 chance. You wouldn't have had October 7th of Israel. You wouldn't have the horrible withdrawal. And I don't mean the withdrawal because the withdrawal was fine. I was ready to withdraw from Afghanistan, and we were going to do it with dignity and strength. And we were keeping our equipment. We weren't leaving $85 billion worth of equipment behind. And we wouldn't have had 13 great soldiers. I know the families of those soldiers well. We wouldn't have had these soldiers killed. And we wouldn't have had 45 soldiers obliterated. No legs, no arms, the face. None of that would have happened. And you wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had any inflation because inflation was caused by their bad energy problems. Now they've gone back to the Trump thing because they need the votes. I don't know if you know, they're drilling now because they had to go back because gasoline was going up to $7, $8, $9 a barrel. So they said, we better do what Trump. But the day after the election, if they won, you're going to have fuel prices go through the roof. Everybody's going to be forced to buy an electric car, which they're not going to do because they don't want that. It's got a great market. It's got a market. It's really a sub-market. People want gasoline-propelled cars. They want hybrids. They want to have everything, and they want electric. But they want everybody to have an electric car. We don't have enough electricity. We couldn't make enough electricity for that. And you know what else? The weight of a car, the weight of a truck. They want all trucks to be electric. Little things that a lot of people don't talk about. The weight of a truck is 2.5 times. 2.5 times heavier. You would have to rebuild every bridge in this country if you were going to do this ridiculous policy. So, but on crowd size, in history, for any country, nobody's had crowds like I have, and you know that. And when she gets 1,000 people and everybody starts jumping, you know that if I had 1,000 people would say, that's the end of his campaign. I have hundreds of thousands of people. In South Carolina, I had 88,000 people. In Alabama, I had 68,000 people. Nobody says about crowd size with me. But she has 1,000 people or 1,500 people, and they say, oh, the enthusiasm's back. No, no. The enthusiasm is with me and the Republican Party because they want to stop crime. They want to stop people from pouring into our country from places unknown and from countries unknown, from countries that nobody ever heard of. That's where the enthusiasm is. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I can or not. I got him elected. Without me, he wouldn't be governor. I got him elected. He was doing terribly. I got him elected. With that being said, I hope we can repair it. But if we don't, the people are still the people, and they're going to vote. We're leading in Georgia by a lot. We're leading in Pennsylvania by a lot. So, but I don't know. Now, in Pennsylvania, I have great relationships. In Georgia, I do too, but unfortunately not with the governor. I've never understood it. When you get somebody elected, they're supposed to like you. He's not exactly... for some reason, and you'll have to ask him about that. Yeah, I'd love to see it get repaired. I think that if we don't win Georgia, Georgia is a big win, is a big state. So I won Alabama by a record. Nobody's ever gotten that many votes. I won South Carolina by a record. You don't win Alabama and South Carolina by records and lose Georgia. It doesn't happen. And the people of Georgia understand that. There was tremendous anxiety and problems in Georgia. A lot of people say, what happened? And we have to, all we want is honest elections. If we have honest elections in Georgia, we have honest elections in Pennsylvania, we're going to win them by a lot. Well, he actually said it two ways. First, he said it incorrectly, then he corrected himself. Do you agree with that, right? You know, if you watch him. He said it two ways. No. I mean, he said it two ways because he doesn't really know what he's saying. Why didn't he bring it up at the debate? You know, he had a chance for 90 minutes to bring it up at the debate. He could have talked about that at the debate, and he didn't do it. Everyone said, oh, he said this and he said that. He's just, you know, they give him something to read off. He read it very badly because he actually said it the opposite. Then he had to go back and correct himself. He said the opposite. He should have brought this up at the debate. If he had a problem, of course there'll be a peaceful transfer. And there was last time, and there'll be a peaceful transfer. I just hope we're going to have honest elections. That's all, okay?
You have not had a public campaign event for nearly a week now, Arlington, Montana, which is not a swing state. Some of your allies have expressed concern that you're not taking this race seriously, particularly...
What a stupid question this is. Because I'm leading by a lot and because I'm letting their convention go through and I am campaigning a lot. I'm doing tremendous amounts of taping here. We have commercials that are at a level I don't think that anybody's ever done before. Plus, in certain cases, I see many of you in the room where I'm speaking to you on phones, I'm speaking to radio, I'm speaking to television. Television's coming over here. Excuse me, what are we doing right now? She's not doing any news conference. You know why she's not doing it? Because she can't do a news conference. She doesn't know how to do a news conference. She's not smart enough to do a news conference. And I'm sorry, we need smart people to lead this country because our country's never been in this danger before, both economically and from an outside perspective. Russia doesn't respect us anymore. China doesn't respect us anymore. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, liked me a lot. He doesn't like this group. We are in great danger. We're in great danger of being in World War III. That could happen. No, after their convention, yeah. And I'm going out to certain places to help certain senators get elected. Not even for me. I'm trying to help when I go out to Wyoming or when I go out to Montana, or I'm going to different places to help people. And I don't have to go there because I'm leading those states, as you know, by 35, 40, 50 points. I'm leading by record numbers. I'm going because I want to help senators and congressmen get elected. Congressmen and women get elected. Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead. The upcoming what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Elon Musk. So, yeah, sure. So Elon called me. As you know, he endorsed me full-throated. Great endorsement. I respect Elon a lot. He respects me. And not easy for him to endorse, to be honest with you. You know, it takes courage to endorse people. Many people have courage and many people don't. He does have courage. And Elon endorsed me, and he asked me whether or not I'd do a show on Monday, and I think it's going to be Monday night. And I believe he's the host of the show. So it'll be very interesting. A lot of people are talking about it. I look forward to it. That'll be done on Monday night. Well, you have a lot of misinformation spread about China, and you have a lot of misinformation spread about a lot of different places. I think I'm going to get along great with China. President Xi of China and I were very good friends. We met right here, right in that, except we had a beautiful sofa there, as opposed to what we have right now. Right now we have you. But President Xi and I had a very good relationship until COVID. And I held him responsible for COVID. It broke up our relationship. But I think we're going to have a great relationship. And I think it's going to be mutually beneficial. But we cannot have it where China is taking advantage of the United States. And that's what they were doing, as you very well know. Yes, please. What's your question? No, I think the people that, if you look at January 6th, which a lot of people aren't talking about very much, I think those people were treated very harshly when you compare them to other things that took place in this country where a lot of people were killed. Nobody was killed on January 6th. But I think that the people of January 6th were treated very unfairly. And they were there to complain, not through me, they were there to complain about an election. And, you know, it's very interesting. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I said peacefully and patriotically, which nobody wants to say, but I said peacefully and patriotically. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, and you've seen, Maggie, I was at the mall, I was at the Washington Monument, I was at the whole thing. I had crowds, I don't know who's ever had a bigger crowd than I have, but I had it many times. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was that day, and I'll tell you, it's very hard to find a picture of that crowd. You see the picture of a small number of people relatively going to the Capitol, but you never see the picture of the crowd. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken, I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people, if not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people. They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people. And I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King. Yeah, please. Yeah, sure. We have a Constitution. It's a very important document, and we live by it. She has no votes, and I'm very happy to run against her. I'm not complaining from that standpoint. And I hate to be defending him, but he did not want to leave. He wanted to see if he could win. They said, you're not going to win. After the debate, they said, you're not going to win. You can't win. You're out. And at first they said it nicely, and he wasn't leaving. And then you know it better than anybody. Wait a minute. So when you think about it, they said at first they were going to go out to another vote. They were going to go through a primary system, a quick primary system, which it would have to be. And then it all disappeared, and they just picked a person that was the first out. She was the first loser, okay? So we call her the first loser. She was the first loser when during the primary system. During the Democrat primary system, she was the first one to quit, and she quit. She had no votes, no support, and she was a bad debater, by the way, very bad debater. And that's not the thing I'm looking forward to, but she was a bad debater. She did obviously a bad job. She never made it to Iowa. Then for some reason, and I know he regrets it, you do too, he picked her, and she turned on him too. She was working with the people that wanted him out. But the fact that you can get no votes, lose in the primary system, in other words, you had 14 or 15 people, she was the first one out, and that you can then be picked to run for president, it seems to me actually unconstitutional. Perhaps it's not. Please. So I've run against Hillary, and I've run against various other people. I would say that in terms of intelligence, Hillary was far superior. I would say that. Hillary was smart. She was her own worst enemy in many ways, but she was smart, very smart. Okay? If you ask me to compare them, please. Would you repeat that question, please? You have to speak up. Yes, sir. It's a hard room because it's very big, if you know. So this is worth $18 million. Oh, I see. Yeah. So I think the abortion issue has been very much tempered down, and I've answered, I think, very well in the debate, and it seems to be much less of an issue, especially for those where they have the exceptions, as you know. And I think it's when I look for 52 years, they wanted to bring abortion back to the states. They wanted to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and that's Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and everybody, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back in the states, and I did that. Now the states are voting. And frankly, some of the votes are much more, if you could say, liberal than you would think. Ohio turned out to be, they had a big vote, and it turned out to be a much more liberal standing than people would have thought. Kansas, the same thing. And then you have Texas, and you have other places where it may be different. But the issue has been brought back to the states now. And like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly. I think that that's a very important thing. I think when you have to follow your heart. But when you don't believe in the exceptions, I think it's much tougher. It's a much tougher issue. But about 82% of Republicans do believe in exceptions. I think and a lot of them are changing their mind and coming even further. I think that abortion has become much less of an issue. It's a very small, I think it's actually going to be a very small issue. What I've done is I've done what every Democrat and every Republican wanted to have done, and we brought that issue back to the states. And now the states are voting on it. And frankly, some of the votes are a lot different than people would have thought. But it's the vote of the people is taking care of it. And, you know, when you think about the Democrats are really the radical ones in this because they're allowed to do abortion on the 8th and 9th month and even after birth. If you look at your new governor from Minnesota, he's like the governor previous, the former governor. I don't want to get him mixed up because Glenn is doing a good job and he's leading our whole campaign in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. But previous to Glenn, the governor, he said, the baby will be born, we will put the baby aside, and we will decide with the mother what we're going to do. In other words, whether or not we're going to kill the baby. The Minnesota gentleman, this guy agrees with that. He is the most liberal. Look, between her and him, there's never been anything like this. There's never been a combination. So I'll use the word progressive. You know, they want to go progressive. They don't like the word liberal. I like liberal better. I think it's more appropriate because nobody knows what progressive means. But they now like to use the word progressive. But there's certainly never been anybody so liberal like these two, or even close. I think the abortion issue has been taken down many notches. I don't think it's I don't think it's a big factor anymore, really. And when people hear what I said in the debate, and I think I said it very well during the debate, we brought it back to the states. Everybody wanted it in the states. And very importantly, and you think about this, assuming you have exceptions. If you don't have exceptions, it's a more difficult thing. At the same time, there are people that strongly feel that way, and you have to follow your heart, and you should follow your heart. But that issue is very much subdued. Yeah, thank you. About who? Yes. No, I didn't. Look, if you take away guns, she wants to take away everyone's gun. If you take away guns, can't do it because people need the guns for protection. Now, entertainment, they want it, hunting, they want, different things. But they need weapons for protection in this country. People live out in the woods and they're not going to have a gun. If you look at some countries, I don't want to get them in trouble, but some countries have actually gone the opposite way. They had very strong gun laws, and now they have gone the opposite way, where they allowed people to have guns, where in one case they encouraged people to go out and get guns, and crime is down 29%. And remember this, what is the toughest gun law in the United States? Chicago. On July 4th, 117 people were shot and 17 died. The toughest gun laws in the United States are in the city of Chicago. You know that. They had 117 people shot. Afghanistan does not have that. Afghanistan, by the way, was the lowest point in the history of our country, in my opinion. That was the worst embarrassment to the history of this country, and I say Putin would not have gone into Ukraine if that didn't happen. When he saw the incompetence of Millie and all these guys that are incompetent, when he saw that happen, when they took out the soldiers first, they took out the soldiers first. If you go back and check your records, for 18 months, I had a talk with Abdul. Abdul was the leader of the Taliban, still is. But I had a strong talk with him. For 18 months, not one American soldier was shot at or killed, but not even shot at. 18 months, and then we had the disaster of the lift, where people were falling off airplanes from 3 times the height of the World Trade Center. I mean, terrible. But now our country has to be respected again. Please. Go ahead, please. I'd be against that. That Kamala is in favor of not giving Israel weapons? Yeah. That's what I hear. Look, she's been very, very bad to Israel, and she's been very bad to Jewish people. And I say it, if anybody I know is Jewish and they would vote for Kamala over me, they should have their head examined. If you think about it, I gave them Golan Heights. I gave them the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. I even built the embassy. I gave them no Iran deal. The problem is they didn't do anything with it. Iran was broke. We could have made a deal so easily. I would have had a deal done within 1 week after the election with Iran. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We would have gotten along with Iran. I was looking forward to it. I was fine with Iran. We hit them a couple of times pretty hard, but we would have been fine with Iran. But I terminated that deal. I got them the Abraham Accords. Everyone said that's impossible. I got them the Abraham Accords. She's been very, very bad to Israel, and she's been very bad and disrespectful to Jewish people. And any Jewish person that votes for Kamala and her friend, her new friend, who I don't know if she knew him before, but I don't think he's too good. But anybody that votes for them, if you're Jewish or if you love Israel, you have to have your head examined. Go ahead, please. They have. The FBI came to see me about the shooter. I think they've done a very good job. And I think they did a very good job with respect to this other lunatic that they have in custody. Please.
There's been some discussion around Vice President Harris's relationship with Willie Brown,
Yeah.
former mayor of San Francisco, and how that might have intersected with her career trajectory. So I'm just wondering if you followed that discussion at all.
Well, I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. We were in a helicopter going to a certain location together, and there was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was, he was a little concerned. So I know him pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen him in years. But he told me terrible things about her. But this is what you're telling me anyway, I guess. But he had a big part in what happened with Kamala. But I don't know, maybe he's changed his tune, but he was not a fan of hers very much at that point.
Do you believe Vice President Harris would certify your election victory if you win?
Yeah, I do. Go ahead. On what? Well, I'm going to announce that. I'm going to actually have a press conference on that at some point in the near future, so I don't want to tell you now. But Florida does have a vote coming up on that, and I think probably the vote will go in a little more liberal way than people thought. But I'll be announcing that at the appropriate time. Please.
Mr. President, your tax cuts from your administration will be coming up, fairly soon and potentially expiring. I wanted to ask you specifically about the tax code favoring parents versus people who don't have children. There are a number of tax breaks.
Yeah. Oh, we gave tremendous for child care and all of that. No, our tax cuts, which are the biggest in history, our tax cuts are coming due, as you know, very soon. And if the Democrats don't renew them or make it impossible to renew because it's pretty close in terms of vote, if they don't renew them, it's the equivalent of having a 4 times tax increase from what you have right now, and it'll destroy the economy. I think they're under tremendous pressure to do it. I've never seen, all my life I grow up and I watch politics, and I used to be on the other side of politics first, then I run for office. But in all the years of studying politics, I've never seen people get elected by saying, we're going to give you a tax increase. These guys get up, think of it. We're going to give you no security. We're going to give you a weak military. We're going to give you no walls, no borders, no anything. All these things they're doing. I mean, the transgender became such a big thing. But they do all of these things, but they always say, we're going to give you a tax increase. I never heard anybody campaign on a tax increase. A politician has always said, I will cut taxes. I'll give you one example, Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. I am going to leave Social Security. I'm not raising the years. I'm not raising the age. I will be saving Social Security, and I'm going to work it out that there's no tax on Social Security for seniors. I'm also doing no tax on tips, no tax on tips. So waiters, waitresses, caddies, people that drive cars, people that get tips who have been harassed by this government, we're going to have no tax on tips. That's a big thing. Yeah, oh, absolutely, sure. Because other people have done far bigger things than Steve Bannon, sure. It's politically motivated. I think it's a horrible thing they did. Look, they've weaponized government against me. Look at the Florida case. It was a totally weaponized case. All of these cases, by the way, the New York cases are totally controlled out of the Department of Justice. They sent their top person to the various places. They went to the AG's office, got that one going. Then he went to the DA's office, got that one going, ran through it. No, this is all politics, and it's a disgrace. Never happened in this country. It's very common that it happens, but not in our country. It happens in banana republics and third world countries, and that's what we're becoming. We have no borders. We have bad voting regulations. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you're going to have problems. France learned that lesson. France had all mail-in voting, and they went back to paper ballots, voter identification, voter ID. They went back to a normal system, one-day voting. They don't want to be around, voting for 64 days. And look, the election, I keep talking about November 5th, but the election really starts on September 6th. That's when it starts because it's early voting. We should have one-day voting. We should have paper ballots. We should have voter ID, and we should have proof of citizenship. Please. No, the gentleman in back. For who? You're going to have to talk louder, sir.
Do you support continuation of tax credits for EVs? And secondly, what sort of political
Elon is a very different kind of a guy. He's a very big believer in the country, but he's very worried about the country. He's very worried about the country. And I don't know if it's good for him politically to have supported me, although I think we have a vast majority of this country does support me. But Elon, more than almost anybody I know, I mean, he loves this country. He loves the concept of the country. But like me, he says this country is in big trouble. It's in tremendous danger. Okay, please.
Polls suggest overwhelmingly that Americans trust you more than Kamala Harris to fix the U.S. economy.
I like this guy. I like him.
What message do you have to Americans, sir, who are struggling to pay for everyday
Yeah.
groceries, rent?
The polls have suggested. There are some polls that say we're going to win in a landslide. People are voting with their stomachs, meaning they're going to the grocery store. They're paying 50, 60, 70% more for food than they did just a couple of years ago. Look at what's happened to energy. Look at what's happened not only to their cars, where gasoline's gone from $1.87, $1.87, and we had moments when it was below that, but it's gone from $1.87 to $5, $6, and $7. And they take the strategic national reserves and they take it out, even though it's peanuts compared, it doesn't last long. But they're virtually empty now. We've never had it this low. And he's using that to keep the gasoline prices as low as possible. He's sucked all of the oil out, essentially the gasoline, to keep the price down a little bit, and it's had very little impact. But you know what? We have no strategic national reserves now. He's emptied it. It's almost empty. It's never been this low. And I had it at a good level, and I would have had it more if the Democrats would have approved the deal. You know, I had a deal to buy it at $22 a barrel, and now it's going to be close to 100 pretty soon, my opinion. And the Democrats didn't want to do that, but we bought a lot anyway. And we had it pretty good. And what they've done to the national reserves, the strategic national reserves, is, as you know very well, because you cover it, but what they've done is incredible. They've just, for the sake of getting some votes, for the sake of having gasoline, you know, that's meant for wars. It's meant for, like, tragedy. It's not meant to keep a gasoline price down so that somebody can vote for Biden, or in this case, Kamala, who, by the way, is worse than Biden. And she's actually not as smart. Okay? She's actually not as smart. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah, please. Okay.
There are other things that the federal government could do, not just a ban. Would you direct your FDA, for example, to revoke access to Bethesda? That's one of the things.
Sure, you could do things that would supplement, absolutely. And those things are pretty open and humane. But you have to be able to have a vote, and all I want to do is give everybody a vote. And the votes are taking place right now as we speak. Yeah, but it's there are many things on a humane basis that you can do outside of that, but you also have to give a vote, and the people are going to have to decide. Okay, yes, please. You. On what? No, I think she's actually not as smart as he is. I don't think he's very smart either, by the way. I'm not a big fan of his brain. But I think that she's actually not as smart as he is.
So what do you attribute her rising in the polls as becoming a more competitive race since she's taken over?
Well, she's a woman. She represents certain groups of people. But I will say this. When people find out about her, I think she'll be much less. And I see it right now. I see her going way down in the polls now. Now that people are finding out that she destroyed San Francisco, she destroyed the state of California along with Governor Gavin Newsom. He's been a terrible governor, terrible. But they did it together. And she was early. I mean, she was the first of the prosecutors, really. You know, now you see Philadelphia, you see Los Angeles, you see New York, you see various people that are very bad. But she was the first of the bad prosecutors. She was early. Who? Would you repeat that, please? No, you. Would you repeat her, what she said? You have to speak up. This room is very louder. Do you hear her? A daily press briefing? Why would I do that? I would give you all the press briefings you want. Look what I'm doing here. But why would I do a daily press? You'd get tired of me very fast. No, but I will give you total access, and you'll have a lot of press briefings, and you'll have from me. Now, are you talking about from me or from a press secretary? Well, yeah, probably they'll do something. If it's not daily, it's going to be a lot. You'll have more than you want. Yeah, please.
President Biden vowed not to pardon his son Hunter, who is now a convicted felon and facing more felony charges in his upcoming trial for alleged tax evasion. Would you consider granting clemency or a pardon?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to talk about it. I think it's a tragic story. You want to know the truth. And I felt that with Hillary Clinton, too. You know, with Hillary Clinton, I could have done things to her that would have made your head spin. I thought it was a very bad thing. Take the wife of a president of the United States and put her in jail. And then I see the way they treat me. That's the way it goes. But I was very protective of her. Nobody would understand that, but I was. I think my people understand it. They used to say, lock her up, and I'd say, just relax, please. We won the election. I think it would be I think it would have been horrible for our country and we had her between the hammering of all of the files. And don't forget, she got a subpoena from the United States Congress. And then, after getting the subpoena, she destroyed everything that she was supposed to get. I thought it was so bad to take her and put her in jail, the wife of a president of the United States, and then when it's my turn, nobody thinks that way. I thought it was a very terrible thing. And she did a lot of very bad things. I'll tell you what, she was pretty evil. But in terms of the country and in terms of unifying the country, bringing it back, to have taken her and to have put her in jail, and I think you know the things as well as I do. There were some pretty bad acts that she did. I think it would have been very bad for our country. And a lot of my people, a lot of the MAGA, as they call them, but the base. And I think the base is 75% of the country, far beyond the Republican Party, because we're a party of common sense, and I'm a person of common sense. I want to have low taxes. I want to have strong borders. I want to have a strong military so that China and Russia, look, they've allowed China and Russia to do the impossible combined. They're natural enemies. They always have been, because China needs more land and Russia has it. They've always been natural enemies, and because of Obama, it started with him, and then Biden, because he didn't know what the hell he was doing, they've now become one force. And then now they're adding Iran to it, and they're adding North Korea to it. Pretty powerful force. This is something that is unthinkable that they allowed to happen. Oh, it's going to end. The honeymoon period's going to end. Look, she's got a little period. She's got a convention coming up. It's about policy. It's not about her. I think she's incompetent because I've watched her. She destroyed California. She destroyed San Francisco. Everything she's touched has turned to bad things. I'm not going to use foul language, but everything she's touched has turned bad. She's incompetent. The reason she's not doing what I do and she's not doing what she should be doing, she won't even do interviews with friendly people because she can't do better than Biden. Now, he had a reason for not doing well, and he was never, 25 years ago, the sharpest or brightest bulb in the ceiling. That I can tell you, okay? He wasn't. But he could do interviews at least. Not lately, he couldn't, perhaps. But she should be doing interviews. She doesn't want to do interviews. And the reason she doesn't is, number one, her policies are so bad. Just to answer your question, I think that it's not going to change because it's really ultimately not about her as much as about her policies. She wants open borders. She wants to defund the police. She wants to defund the police. She wants to take away your guns. Anybody that thinks they're not going to come after your guns, you know, when I was president, I totally protected the guns. And I think it's very important. And I know I take some heat sometimes for it, but you have to have safety. You have to have, when the bad guy walks in with a gun, you got to have some way of protecting yourself. And boy, that would be, you would see crime go up at levels that you've never seen. When people say on the side of the house, this house has guns, we will use the guns, they say, let's pass. We'll go someplace else. You have to have them. And for 4 years, and you know, as you know, the NRA endorsed me very powerfully every time I ran, every time. My sons are members, and I guess indirectly I'm a member too. But they gave me the strongest of endorsements, and that's against very strong competition. People that felt the same way. No, you have to have that right. Our Second Amendment is a very important right, and it has to be protected. Okay, how about you? Go ahead. Yeah. So there are some of the most brilliant people on Wall Street that are saying that if President Trump doesn't win, you're going to have a depression. I happen to agree. I think that's true. Because I know how bad these people are. You know, they like to say that they did this and that. You saw the $7 trillion that they said it was me for $7 trillion. It wasn't me. It was them. They said that I had inflation. They took over 9% inflation. No, I had 1% inflation. I had actually no inflation because if you look at the categories, we had just about no inflation. But I had a very minor, I actually had a positive inflation. It was a perfect number because you don't want zero. I mean, I'm not going to give you a whole course on economics, but you don't want zero. 1%, 1.4% is great. You want a little bit because you don't want to have deflation. Deflation is, in many ways, even worse. I had a perfect number right around the 1% number. It was perfect. And to show you, it stayed there for 2 years. And then he did all of the different borrowings that he did. And then he did so many things wrong. Every time he would do it, I'd say, big mistake. And don't forget, they sell hats and they sell stories. Trump was right about everything. I have been right about a lot. Yes, Maggie. Well, we had a commission like other people do, and it's always complicated and it's always controversial. And we had commissions that, and I think of respected people, you know many of the people on the commission, and they would recommend to me certain pardons for certain people. Some people were treated very harshly. A fantastic woman, as you know, she served 24 years for being on a phone call having to do with drugs. You know who I'm talking about. She was great. And she had another 24 years to go. And it was largely about marijuana, which in many cases is now legalized, okay? But we had many very highly regarded people on a commission, and they'd recommend, and they'd put a reason why. Some people were, served time, but they served a lot of time for something that today people wouldn't even serve time by. Well, for the most part, I think they did. I mean, they did. They go through. They went through. I had a commission. It was a very important commission to me, and highly respected people. And frankly, they came up with some decisions that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but I did it. But I let a lot of people out that had no representation. I went to people in jails, in prison that we respected. I said, how many of these people should be let out? We let out large groups of low-income people that were serving like 40 years for something that today you wouldn't even be put in jail for. We had very few people let out because I said I really don't want to let people out where they had a lot of violence, where they had killing, et cetera, et cetera. And for the most part, we didn't do that. Yeah, please. On defense?
Or the Federal Reserve.
Ah, Federal Reserve. Right. Well, look, the Federal Reserve is a very interesting thing, and it's sort of gotten it wrong a lot. And he's tending to be a little bit late on things. He gets a little bit too early and a little bit too late. And, that's very largely it's a gut feeling. I believe it's really a gut feeling. And I used to have it out with him. I had it out with him a couple of times very strongly. I fought him very hard. And, we get along fine. We get along fine. But I feel the president should have at least say in there. Yeah, I feel that strongly. I think that in my case, I made a lot of money. I was very successful. And I think I have a better instinct than, in many cases, people that would be on the Federal Reserve or the chairman. Yeah. Yeah.
Harris supports rescheduling marijuana and also says that no one should go to prison for marijuana offense. Do you agree with that position?
Well, as we legalize it, I start to agree a lot more because, it's being legalized all over the country. Florida has something coming up. I'll be making a statement about that fairly soon. But as we legalize it throughout the country, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's awfully hard to have people all over the jails that are in jail right now for something that's legal. So I think, obviously, there's a lot of sentiment to doing that. Yeah, please.
Kamala Harris's father is Jamaican American, and she went to a historically black college. How is she only recently decided to be black?
Well, you'll have to ask her that question because she's the one that said it. I didn't say it. So you'll have to ask her, and I very much appreciate that question, but you'll have to ask her. But I've known her for a long time. I actually contributed to her campaign a long time ago because I was a developer. I contributed to lots of campaigns of Democrats, Republicans, and some were liberal and some were conservative. But you'll have to ask her about that. But to me, it doesn't matter. But to her, from her standpoint, I think it's very disrespectful to both, really. Whether it's Indian or black, I think it's very disrespectful to both. To me, it doesn't matter. Please, red dress.
What is the assassination? Is your ear fully recovered? Is there a scar? Do you have any
Yeah, pretty much recovered, yeah. I'm a fast healer. It's a hell of a shot, but I'm a fast healer. Yeah, pretty much recovered.
Do you have any hearing damage from it?
No, it didn't hit that. I got very lucky. It just hit the lobe, as they call it.
Is there a scar on your ear?
Yeah, a little bit, not much. On top. A little bit.
An immigration question. We've been running on the idea of mass deportation to the biggest in American history, basically.
Yeah.
When Senator Vance has been asked about that, he sort of suggested that really you only need to go after people who be convicted of crime.
Well, we're starting that, yeah.
So what are we really talking about here? How do you pay for it?
We are going to start the largest mass deportation in the history of our country because we have no choice. It's not sustainable. And we are going to start with violent criminals, and we're going to start then with criminals. And our local police is going to work with us because they know everything about the people. They know their names. They know everything about them. They know their middle name. They know their numbers. And as you know, the other side is trying. Look, for years I wondered, why are they allowing these people to come in at levels like this? It was incredible. And I said two reasons. They're either really stupid, and I don't believe they're stupid, because anybody that can cheat in elections like they cheat is not stupid. Or, in the alternative, they have bad motives or they hate our country. And I used to think they hate our country. But lately I've seen where they're trying to sign these people up to vote. And they have to stop. They cannot let illegal immigrants vote in this upcoming election. All right, one more question. Go ahead, one more. Make it a good one, please.
Okay, regarding Social Security taxes for seniors.
Right.
We talked about a lot. Experts say that the policy can increase the deficit by $1.6 trillion. So how would it work in your view?
We have so many ways of making money in this country. We're not going to affect our Social Security. We're not changing it. And I proved that over 4 years. And we're going to do it. It's very unfair to people. They spend their life and they're great citizens and they pay in. We're not going to charge tax to Social Security, the seniors. We're not going to do it. We're not going to charge. And also tax. I say the two things. We're going to have no tax on seniors, Social Security, and we're going to have no tax on tips. Very simple. And we are a country that has so many different ways to make money. We have under our feet more liquid gold, I call it oil, and gas, than any country in the world, much more than Saudi Arabia, much more than Russia. We have so many different ways we can make money. We're not going to hurt our seniors with Social Security, and we're not going to charge them tax. Okay? We should not have sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities is a way of protecting criminals, and we should not have sanctuary cities. And if you go to California, and I know it well, I have property out there, great property. If you go to California and you ask the people of California, do they like the idea of sanctuary cities? They don't like it. They're tired of it. They're tired of crime. They're tired of what's happened to our country. Our country's become a crime-ridden mess, and we're going to stop it on November 5th. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Democratic National Convention, live on Fox 5. Stay with us for all the big moments from this history-making event. Our Tom Fitzgerald talking to big-name guests from Chicago, Illinois, and bringing you every important angle for the DMV in 2 weeks on Fox 5, Fox Local, and online.
Back here in the zone, and today we're talking with a Maryland mother who continues to fight for suicide prevention and awareness. More than a decade ago, Linda Diaz's daughter Lauren died by suicide. In response, Diaz worked with lawmakers on Lauren's law, which required special training for school counselors in Maryland. But the efforts, they don't stop there. This weekend is the Lauren's Law Celebrity Kickball Game for Mental Health Awareness and Unity Day at the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium. Linda Diaz is joining us live now here on the zone to share her story and this incredible effort. Linda, thank you for coming on today. Such a powerful story, and you have been relentless in your work to pass these bills and to continue to keep Lauren's life and legacy alive. What do you want parents to hear from you after living through this tragedy?
Thank you for having me. And yeah, there's a lot of information that a lot of parents, no matter how hands-on they are or they believe they are with their children, that they really need to know. They need to know the signs. Depression is very real. And what our teenagers are going through, not to compare that to how we grew up as teenagers, because they're not the same thing.
You believe that it was an awful act of bullying that led to the untimely death of your daughter. Subsequently, two of her friends survived suicide, or her friend survived suicide as well. What do you think has changed since Lauren's death and in your activism and making these laws come into effect in Maryland?
A lot more awareness and understanding that words, they really do hurt. And the things from yesterday with regards to, joking around, they actually take a really big toll on our kids. Social media is doing a great thing. Social media is both a double-edged sword. You have so many different avenues where social media is providing so much awareness, the signs, the resources, and how to assist families in crisis. But at the same time, you have children, youth, and teenagers that are utilizing social media that will end up hurting others. And a lot of people don't know what a child could be going through because they keep their depression to themselves. So sometimes being quiet, you get teased for, you know, being different, you get teased for it, and all of those things can really drive a child to have these bad thoughts.
Linda, let's talk about Lauren's Law Celebrity kickball game. What you hope to make awareness happen at this game, and how you hope the community comes out.
Well, what I especially love about this is that it's a community event. We're going to have resources there. It's a great partnership with the DMV Daily as well as the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium. We're going to have resources all along the concourse in order, you know, if families should need them. But what is most important is giving children, giving families the ability to understand that getting out of the house, being able to do things together, and coming to see not just a baseball game, but the local celebrities in the DMV really coming out to support mental health, because that's very serious, and that's what this event is about, to make sure that everyone understands that mental illness and mental health is very serious. And it's not just for adults, and it's not just for teenagers, it's also for children.
All right, Linda, thank you so much for coming on the DMV Zone. That game, of course, is this Sunday, right, at 11 a.m.?
It is. It's this Sunday. The doors open at 11:30, and we're going to have so many amazing things, as well as a race car. If there's a bunch of kids out there that want to see a race car.
Very cool, at the Bowie Bay Sox Stadium. Thank you for coming on the DMV Zone. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And before we have to break, one more thing that we want to tell you about. We've told you about the urgent need for blood donations across the nation. Now you can answer the call from the American Red Cross. Fox 5, again, teaming up with the Red Cross for our second blood drive of this year. The first one was a huge success. We're hoping the second one will be as well. Again, same locations as last time at Fairfax and Silver Spring. This time it's on Tuesday, August 20th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Of course, we will be there live on the DMV Zone, hopefully bringing you more information. Hopefully you can get out there as well. And for more information on how you can take part in this blood drive, head to fox5dc.com. In the meantime, stay with us. So we're going from Maryland this time to Northern Virginia and give you the latest there on that the dashboards that are coming up throughout the counties in Northern Virginia. Stay with us.
Get you sexy, huh? I'm bringing sexy back. The mother.
here in the zone, and earlier this week we told you about Fairfax County recently rolling out their prosecution dashboard. The idea there to potentially give more transparency when it comes to all criminal cases. But it looks like neighboring Arlington not measuring up to those detailed breakdowns. Daniel Aguido from Arlington Now looking into this live with us now. And it sounds as though this has been an issue ongoing for Arlington.
Yeah, it's definitely been an ongoing issue. The case management system that we have here in Arlington, so the what the actual Commonwealth's attorney has for looking at cases dating back years and years, wasn't built until 2014. So basically, the Commonwealth's attorney and prosecutors here are dealing with much less in-depth data than they'd really like to be dealing with. You know, we're tracking things like racial disparities or diversion programs, you know, toward programs outside of the criminal justice system, you know, things like mental health court. And they've been trying to upgrade this, but finding the funding is a little bit tougher than they'd like.
You know, I will only speak anecdotally. Being a reporter out on the streets and going into Arlington County, we would go to the police department, and it seemed like it was almost impossible to retrieve a mugshot or to even get an affidavit as to what the charges were for the person that they were hoping to get more coverage of, if you will. A different case in other jurisdictions. But I wonder if this is something that is just ingrained in how Arlington has been working over the past, and maybe they're working to shift that into a more transparent outlook.
It could be, yeah. You know, if you talk to our Commonwealth's attorney here, she has definitely strong thoughts about how this original case management system was developed. You know, I think she would probably say that it should have been more robust to begin with. It is important to keep in mind, though, there's different agencies at play here. So, you know, the Arlington County Police Department has some data that they release, but it's our prosecutors that want their own data that they don't have yet.
Okay, so we're talking about two different agencies, if you will, within the same jurisdiction is what you're trying to say?
That's right, yeah. So, you know, we have data on things like offenses and arrests and what the police are trying to provide. But once those cases pass into the courts, data becomes a lot more limited.
You would think that they would work hand in hand, as one does one job and then the other one has to follow through, but it seems as though there may be some tie there that's not connected. Do you think, looking now at Fairfax County, the neighboring jurisdiction, potentially there's a little bit more impetus, if you will, or pressure to make sure that this dashboard is a little bit more robust?
I think there could be. This is something that a Commonwealth's attorney requested this past budget cycle. The county board didn't grant that request. They gave her some other things that she'd asked for. They didn't give this thing. So it's possible next year she does plan on going back, asking for it again. We'll see what happens.
So the Commonwealth's attorney wants it. The board doesn't seem to think, at least not in this vote, that it was a priority. Is that the sense you get as well?
Yeah, it's not as high a priority for them as some other things that she asked for. So, you know, they gave her two new staff, or two permanent positions on her staff. But this request, it just isn't something that they found the money for this go around. All
right, we'll wait and see if they do and they follow suit here with Fairfax County. Daniel Aguido with Arlington Now. We appreciate you coming on and giving us the latest there. When we come back, you know, Taylor Swift, she's had to cancel a few of her shows across the pond in Europe. We'll tell you about the latest as to why and the follow-up tonight. Stay with us.
I don't want to be the girl that has to feel the
Okay, so we're back here in the zone, and we're going to a story that unfortunately has covered and grasped so many headlines across the world. And this time it's an alleged plot to attack a Taylor Swift planned concert and concerts in Vienna this week. It has led to 3 tour dates being canceled. 2 suspects we now have been arrested. One of them actually found to have, quote, chemical substances and technical devices in their home. The second had ISIS and al-Qaeda materials. Retired U.S. Navy captain and national security expert Armin Kurdian is with us live tonight to talk about this. Good to see you, Armin. You know, this is on the heels, unfortunately, of a stabbing rampage in the UK where 3 children died at a Taylor Swift dance class, and now this plot allegedly foiled. These concerts canceled. How much of a soft target are these big events?
Hey, Marina, they're an incredibly soft target. I mean, if you look back, a lot of terrorists want to emulate the type of attack that was done on the Russian concert hall way back when. You remember the gas attack, the Chechen rebels that went in there.
Yeah.
Or look at the Las Vegas shooting. These things, you know, when one person perpetrates the attack, it can sometimes be very hard to track down, or if that individual is rather clumsy, they can be very easy to track. These terrorists who are planning this attack on the Swift concert in Vienna had been on law enforcement's radar for quite some time, and so they finally decided to move in as time was getting closer to try to gather as much evidence as they could and perhaps find any accomplices. But these high-profile news attention-gathering targets are exactly what ISIS and their kin are trying to achieve.
It has been some time where we have heard of a large-scale, if you will, ISIS attack. And, of course, there are on a regular basis terrorist and domestic terrorist attacks. And we saw something similar happening in the UK, like I mentioned off the top. But you think of just every incident that could potentially happen, every live event that is happening as we speak right now across the world. How is it that so many agencies can keep track of that potential threat?
Because the threat's really, quite frankly, is metastasized. Now, when you look back at 9/11, even though we missed those guys, they came in, they planned, they entered the country, and they were organized, and they hid. They knew exactly what they needed to do to stay off of the radar. But when you're looking at, say, individuals who live in a country and perhaps see something and become inspired and then want to do something on their own, well, we're fortunate, you know, these guys, they go on to online and they, you know, profess their love for ISIS, so that's pretty easy to find. But in the case of the stabbing attack, somebody may decide, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to go grab my knife. I'm trying to kill as many people as I can. Somebody with no record, no history, no other indications of terror, you just don't know. So that's why it's physical security and presence of physical security is just as important as the investigations and the cooperation across the pond and across national borders to stop this stuff from happening.
If you go online, there's people that are saying, well, the show must go on. They've arrested some of the alleged suspects here behind this. Is it that easy to put together these shows again? Does the show go on? I mean, it sounds as though Taylor Swift is going to continue her tour, but she's decided against performing in Vienna.
I think that was the right decision to make. Ultimately, I'm sure she wants to come back there. She's got fans all over the world. The good news is, at least here in the state of California, if something like that happens, and other states across the country, especially in Maryland, if an event is canceled, you can actually get your ticket refunded. I don't know about the fans in Vienna. Hopefully they have the same types of protections. You know, find out Taylor Swift, and no, I don't know her personally. She's going to want to continue to do her shows, and I think continuing the rest of her tour is also the right thing, and not just canceling it out of fear. But considering the fact that there was a tangible attempt, and it was going to happen had it not been stopped, to attack this concert, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you don't know if there perhaps were other accomplices that the Viennese authorities might have missed or didn't catch. So I think that was the wise decision to move, because honestly, if something had happened and they'd known about it, then it would be a very, very serious issue.
Definitely. Armin Kurdian, with that perspective, thank you. And, of course, we know that a lot of American fans had traveled across the pond to see Taylor, and we hope that they do get their money back. And, obviously, this is the best result that we could have hoped for. Moving on, let's talk a little closer back home here in D.C. A new ballot initiative coming this November will decide whether to open up the district's primaries to independent voters as well as they institute ranked choice voting. Janae Dill with Axios live with us now with those details. Janae, first explain ranked choice, because I think for most people, unless you're from Alaska where they use this often, you don't really know what exactly that is.
Yeah, so ranked choice voting is you rank your top 5 candidates in the race. This is not a thing we've done in D.C. before. You know, New York City does this. Arlington County recently adopted this as well. But the aim is for the voter to pick 5 candidates. This way, if no one gets at least 50% of the vote, they can go back, they drop the last person, the last place finisher, and then they'll recalculate it based on second preferences. Someone ends up getting 51% of support. And this way, there's no vote splitting and that sort of thing. So voters in D.C. will have a chance to decide if they want this in November. There's a new ballot initiative called Initiative 83, and it's also going to open up primaries to independent voters, which matter because most races in D.C. are decided in a Democratic primary. If you're an independent voter, you can't vote in that right now.
Yeah, closed primaries are certainly tough because it may be actually where your vote works the most and counts the most. Janae, anybody publicly supporting ranked choice voting from the politician side?
So politically, this is fraught because the Democratic Party and establishment are very against this. They've gone to court over this. They say the initiative doesn't, comport with D.C. law for various technical reasons. They're fighting it still in the appeals process. But politically, it's fraught. The mayor definitely doesn't like this. And their criticism is, let's not make voting harder than it sort of is.
I'm not sure that's making it harder. It's going to be on the ballot regardless, right, Janae? But does it make it harder for the politician to go out and campaign and get the vote?
Well, yes. One of the reasons the proponents want this ranked choice voting is because candidates will have to build a bigger coalition. So you can't just sort of split the vote and, squeeze your way into another term. You got to get more support behind you, get some of those people to put you down as second or third choices as well. So I think incumbents might not look so favorably upon this. We'll watch if some of the progressives on the council come out in favor of it, though.
All right, Janae, anything else that's brewing in the city? Anything else you're working on?
Well, we're just covering some of the impact from the Harris-Walz ticket now, and so check Axios DC for some of the local angles we're pursuing there, and we're trying to stay on top of this summer weather as well. This drought is getting some relief thanks to the rainfall.
Yeah, Debbie is here, no doubt about it, and hopefully we'll wipe out that drought. Janae Dill with us tonight from Axios. Thank you. Meantime, we're sticking with politics here for at least a moment because we're heading to the Commonwealth. There's been a lot of people thinking about election security as we head into November, and yesterday, Governor Glenn Youngkin issued an order to remove more than 6,000 non-citizens from the voter rolls. He sat down with our chief legal correspondent, Katie Barlow, today. Here's a bit of that conversation.
You mentioned the 6,000 non-citizens who have been removed from the voter list. You say in your executive order, 6,000, I think 303 non-citizens. Any sense of what type of non-citizen we're talking about there? Are those people who are not American citizens, Virginian citizens, people who have died?
Well, first of all, it's people who are not eligible to vote in Virginia because they are not a Virginia citizen. And at the heart of it is just a recognition that mistakes can be made. And yes, maybe there's some folks who, from a nefarious perspective, were trying to register to vote. But we wanted to make sure that we were using all of the resources that the DMV collects on individual voters. But on top of that, the Social Security Administration and other widely accessed data sets in order to confirm that people who are non-citizens in Virginia aren't allowed to vote. There is a 14-day period where they're notified, and if they can demonstrate that they should be allowed to vote, then of course they're added back to the voter list. And then finally, anyone who shows up on the day of election and wants to vote and has to register, that ballot is held as a provisional ballot, and then it's investigated to make sure that it should be counted. This is fair and transparent. And I think, once again, it really works to ensure Virginians that the process is supporting what they all expect, which is citizens should be voting and they should have their votes counted accurately.
These efforts to reinforce confidence among Virginians is buttressed by your Attorney General's Election Integrity Unit, who also endeavors to do the same thing. That unit filed criminal charges against the Prince William County registrar after the 2020 election when they misreported, I think it was about 4,000 votes to former President Trump's benefit. That individual was charged with corruption and lying, and then those charges were dropped. And so the question is, how do you instill faith in the system? Triple checking is one thing, but when there are no consequences for bad actions.
Well, first of all, I can't speak directly to that legal process, but what I can say is that we do prosecute, and that's one of the things I so appreciate about the Attorney General. It is politics agnostic, and we do pursue folks who are afoul of the law.
And the Commonwealth will be critical come November 5th for the presidential election. As right now it stands in the polling is a virtual toss-up. And, of course, you can catch more of that conversation this Sunday at 11:30 p.m. on In the Courts with our Katie Barlow. All right, stay with us here on the DMV Zone. When we come back, we've got so much to get to, including high school football. That's right. Practice started this week. We are checking in with some regional champs after the break.
So damn hard
We're about 15 minutes away from 5 at 4, and you can see Angie's getting ready. The producers have already escaped, and they're in the control room getting ready for their show. In the meantime, we've got Sophie looking ahead at 5 o'clock. We talked to Tisha earlier. She said she was going to give us a preview of how everything was going to happen at Dumfries, as they're about 5 hours away from shutting down before really the arrival of the worst of the rain from Debbie. But the pandas, they're back. They're back in the U.S. Where are they?
They're in San Diego. They unfortunately are all the way across the country. But they're still here. They're back. First pandas in, I think, 20 years, I think is what it is. First new pandas.
Right.
In coming to the country in 20 years.
And then we're expecting our pandas soon, right?
I know. Hopefully, I think they said by the end of the year.
Okay.
So hopefully they can make a new appearance.
Sophie, you're new to D.C. How excited are you about the pandas?
I'm so excited. When I first moved here, my mom made us go to the zoo twice in one weekend because I moved shortly before the pandas left. And so my mom's like, well, we have to see them
before they leave. So you got to see them when they left. Hopefully you'll see them when they come back. Do we have names for the San Diego pandas?
Shin Bao and
Yuchuan.
Yuchuan.
Yuchuan. Okay, Shin Bao and Yuchuan.
I'm probably butchering that, but...
Okay, hey, we like it. We've learned a lot of Chinese through the pandas in the last couple of years, so we will as well with the San Diego ones. You'll get to see them coming up at 5 o'clock. Sophie, thank you. I'll see you at 5 with Jim Loke. All right, let's move on now and go check on high school football because, yes, practice is already starting. It's a big deal across the region, especially in Montgomery County. And our Chad Ricardo, he was there as he begins that high school football preseason tour. Where are you? And it looks like, despite the rain, there will be practice.
That's right, Marina. Those in charge of the rain have bid us good favor here today. We are at Lake Braddock High School. That's in Burke, Virginia, Fairfax County, kicking off our Fox 5 preseason tour right here at the home of the Lake Braddock Bruins, I should say. Now, as we take a look out there on the football field, this is a team that finished last season with a record of 11-3, extraordinarily impressive. They went to the VA 6A quarterfinals, in which they lost there in the semifinals to a Highland Springs team at Highland Springs down there in Richmond. They're coming back this year fully loaded, especially on the offensive end. As we take a look now at some of the video that we shot here earlier today, this is a team that all of it starts with this offensive line. They've got a running back by the name of JT Bordeaux who gets it done out there on the field. They've got two quarterbacks in terms of Michael Surgis as well as Ty Jackson, and an outstanding wide receiver in Kai Austin. But Marina, what it is that makes this Lake Braddock team so special is the community that supports them both on and off the field. Let's take
See, there's a lot of people that support us and pop out on Friday nights and pack the stands, so it's special here.
It's somewhere that I know a lot of people can find a place to belong, and when they can't find that elsewhere.
There's nothing like playing Friday Night Lights in front of all the people you grow up with. I mean, these are my brothers. I grew up playing for them. And then, yeah, of course, I mean, we have a bunch of support, teachers, volunteers, I mean, everything.
It's just great that they all come out. We pack the house, and they hold us accountable. They have a high expectation for what this team's supposed to do every Friday night.
It's so nice to be able to go to such a big high school and just be a part of all of this, and we're so fortunate to have the kind of funding that we do to keep this all going.
Every time we have a big field, a big stadium filled up for all Lake Braddock, we get better and better. Every time we play, every time there's more people, we play better.
Friday Night Lights are special each and every place, but one of my absolute favorite places to take in a game is right here in Burke, Virginia with the Lake Braddock Bruins. As we heard there, we heard from members of the band. We heard from members of the cheer squad. We saw the flag team out here practicing as well. And on Friday nights, all of them come together in relation as well with the parents, the business leaders, and the teachers, faculty, and staff right here on this football field to help lead on their Lake Braddock Bruins. It is a reason why this team is so successful. It's the support of not only the coaches, but of the entire Lake Braddock community. And Marina, they all come together right here for the Bruins.
I love that person who was saying, listen, the more people, the better we play. That is the attitude, and that's competitiveness in them. Chad Ricardo for us. It's going to be an exciting season, no doubt, especially out there in Burke. Thank you, Chad. All right, stay with us here on the DMV Zone. Port City Brewing has some big news, very exciting stuff for people who can head out there to the brewery, especially this weekend. The weather's going to be perfect to get outside. We'll talk to Vernon Miles after the break. Stay with us. All right, back here in the zone, we're heading to Alexandria, where the popular Port City Brewing Company is getting its first fully fledged restaurant, and it comes years after food trucks, but now they're making things permanent. Live with us now to discuss the big news is Alexandria Now's Vernon Miles with those details. This is huge.
Yeah, this is really exciting. Like you mentioned, there've been food trucks at Port City for years. It's a big, popular kind of event space in Alexandria. People go there, have a few drinks, go to a trivia contest. But this is the first time there will be a full-time, reliable restaurant there. And it's a popular one, too. La Tingeria, it's a taco place with locations in Falls Church and Spotsylvania. And this will be their first Alexandria location, their third location overall. And I think people are really excited for this.
It's amazing. It's halal tacos. We actually had them here on the DMV zone through Jason Rezayan with the Washington Post. He brought them in. Joe Claire was beside himself, Vernon, with how delicious the tacos were. So I can only imagine just the success that's coming there. Is this within the brewing company? Is it on the outside? Like, where exactly are they going to be situated?
You know, I think it's going to be on the outside. I actually looked into this earlier this year. They filed a permit for a big new outdoor space where one of their like trailers and areas were before. So I suspect that that's probably where it'll be, which now, as I say that out loud, yeah, that connects the dots there for what that application was for earlier. But it should be right there next to the brewing area. So you can go there, have a beer, have a taco. And yeah, I think people are going to be really, really into this.
Yeah, exciting. The third location in Northern Virginia. Are there plans to expand this even more? As we talked about, there were food trucks of varieties, and now we're going to get tacos with our beer. But anything else potentially down the line that could come to the space?
Well, they're probably going to want to see how it goes, but I do also know that they're going to start hosting a festival there, Port to Port, which is coming up, I believe, this weekend or maybe next weekend. But the idea behind it is bringing in beer from other ports around the country. So I think, you know, still wanting to use that as a festival space. You don't want to turn it too much into just a food court. So I think they'll probably see how this one goes and move on from there.
And then go from there. That sounds like a plan to me, and I'm sure it'll be highly successful. When can La Tingeria officially open? When do they open?
It's going to be coming out this October. And yeah, like you said, I know you mentioned the Washington Post stopped by. They did a really glowing write-up of it earlier. It was also on Washingtonian's 100 very best restaurants in the region.
So good. You know, when you think halal cuisine, it's not tacos that you think of. It's certainly a more Mediterranean type, and they crushed it. They did an amazing job, and you don't need the pork. You don't miss it. Truly an incredible flavor. So good to see it come this fall. There's going to be some permanent food there at Port City. Okay, Vernon, well, good to see you. We got to go. Anything happening this weekend in your neck of the woods?
There is a Alexandria director, a film director who's from Alexandria, Jeremy Saulner. Now, I'm no Kevin McCarthy, but I like a lot of his movies, and he's got a new one coming out. So I've been trying to reach out to him to write about it, but either way, I'll probably write something up about that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see if we can put you guys in contact, and hopefully that would be a cool little collaboration there with you guys. Thank you so much, Vernon. Have fun. Enjoy the movie, and we'll see you next week. Stay with us here on the DMV Zone. We'll be right back. Okay, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, the work week coming to a close, and Debbie hopefully will be moving out of here sometime around this time tomorrow.
Hopefully, but we definitely have some updates for you. Caitlin
I'm calling it the Debbie Downer downpour.
Yeah.
You know what? Don't let it rain on your parade.
Nah.
Don't worry. Yeah, like you said, things are going to get better. It's going to feel better out there, but we do have a couple things to get through, and Caitlin's here in studio to help us through
All right, have a great show, guys.
All right, the news at 4 starts now. Right now at 4, Tropical Storm Debbie already having an impact here in the DMV, and the effects are just getting started. We're breaking down what you can expect as the storm rolls through.
Yeah, it's a big story that's going to impact everyone. Debbie has already caused extensive damage, we know, down south, but we are taking a closer look at the tornado damage and the flooding that the storm already left behind.
And we're talking with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin as he lays out his plan for this upcoming election and every election moving forward.
But first, let's take you right outside because this is what everybody's talking about today.
Yes.
It is top of mind, and we're talking about what's coming down and hitting the ground. A lot of wet roads, wet pavement to contend with, road spray, all of that. Really a primer for what's to come.
And I'm concerned about flash flooding. Caitlin joining us live. Caitlin, break it all down for us.
Well, we're just beginning for what should be a pretty long 24 hours with waves of heavy rain, flooding, even that tornado threat for us, you guys, late tonight, early tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Early tomorrow morning, not normally a time that we have a tornado threat, too. So Fox 5 weather apps, and if those
Gotta
alerts,
keep it handy.
Got to be ready with those alerts because Debbie is here, meaning business, this tropical storm that will probably transition into a post-tropical low shortly, but same idea, going to be bringing us the heavy rain through the night and into tomorrow as well, especially areas off to the west. So the mountains, central Virginia, the Blue Ridge, they will be seeing the bulk of this band right here, kind of the outer edges of Debbie, still a tightly wound tropical storm at this hour. The center of circulation onshore, somewhere in between Charlotte and Raleigh, sustained winds to 40 miles an hour, creeping northward, but at some point going to pick up some speed and then kind of whizzing by us tomorrow and out of here by tomorrow night. But we've already got the heavy to steady rains across southern sections of Virginia, Richmond over towards Charlottesville. It won't be long before a lot of our mountain communities are seeing heavy rain themselves. A little bit further to the east here in the metro, we've had scattered downpours, so it's not raining every minute and it's raining at various levels of intensity, but this will have the tendency to fill in as we get deeper into tonight. We're kind of on the eastern edge of the heaviest of Debbie's rain bands, so there's a pocket or two that just moved through. We've had this all day, the wet roads, and that's a live look at Fairfax, which shows most of the area has seen rain so far, and we'll continue to see that as we go into tonight. Now, the one good thing about Debbie, keeping those temperatures down a bit, it is cool for us, only in the 70s at BWI and Dulles, 80 degrees here in D.C. For the rest of tonight, do expect waves of rain, but really filling in overnight tonight, especially to the west where that flood watch is in effect. We also have that severe threat, which I'll talk about, show you Futurecast coming up in just about 10 minutes. Shamari?
Thank you, Caitlin. Preparation is underway as remnants from Tropical Storm Debbie causes stormy weather here in the DMV. In Northern Virginia, Dumfries is preparing for the storm and urging residents to do the same. City leaders have tons of sand and sandbags ready for residents to pick up. Plus, we're told more is on the way. Fox 5's Tisha Lewis joins us live from Dumfries with more. Hi, Tisha.
Hi there, and similar backdrops across the DMV. In fact, we're told 20 tons of sand and 500 plus sandbags are ready to go. In fact, some folks just arrived here just a few moments ago to pick up some sandbags. Here they are, and here are the sandbags, obviously for residents to pick up here in the town of Dumfries. All of this is in preparation ahead of what is expected to be the worst of the worst in terms of tonight's weather event. We're told the residents again can pick up and fill sandbags here at 3460 Canal Road up until 8 p.m. But take a listen. Why is this so important?
It is so important to make sure that we are giving to our community, making sure that the residents know that we are here for them, make sure that they know that we want to protect their valuables as well.
But I can't. Again, the sandbags are available on a first-come, first-served basis, and it appears there are plenty to go around. Residents are also being urged to clear leaves and debris from storm drains around their home to prevent flooding. And the same scene is playing out again across our area in Prince George's County. County leaders say in anticipation of tonight's upcoming storms, it has activated its sandbag distribution program to, quote, help residents prepare and protect their properties. In fact, they started the distribution this morning. This is the Forestville site. We're told so many people showed up, they ran out of sandbags and paused the program before restarting the giveaway around 12:30.
Now, Tisha, what if you can't get sandbags or you don't like them? You've also learned that there is an alternative. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I have this under my arm. This is the alternative option. Here in Dumfries, it's for folks that are elderly. It's a water-activated sandbag for folks who are having trouble picking up the 50-pounders behind me. We're going to show you how it works at 5 o'clock, so stay with us.
Very curious to see how that works. Thank you, Tisha.
We know that Debbie, as we mentioned, leaving a lot of rain, dangerous flooding, also those deadly tornadoes in its wake. Search and rescue officials here finding a body inside of a home that was destroyed by that twister in North Carolina, raising Tropical Storm Debbie's death toll to 7. Fox News' Chelsea Torres has the story.
North Carolina residents waking up to tornado warnings Thursday as Tropical Storm Debbie has made a second landfall. In Wilson County, a tornado touched down, destroying a 2-story home, forcing it to collapse on itself. More homes ripped apart in other parts of North Carolina as tornadoes came through. Wind whipping up waves on Surfside Beach in South Carolina as some people were out walking in the storm. Debbie is expected to keep moving inland, bringing with it heavy rain. Flooding could be a problem across parts of South Carolina and North Carolina. Residents say you have to be resilient.
We have no control. We just take it and just enjoy it, the good and the bad.
Take a look at this car caught up in brown flood water in North Carolina. From the sky, the road looks like a river. A dangerous situation is unfolding in Georgia, where at least 4 dams were breached northwest of Savannah in Bullock County. Tropical Storm Debbie dumped about a foot of rain in this area.
All the Bullock County Sheriff's deputies have said that they've never seen anything like this, and we haven't seen anything like this before. And I've lived here for 33 years.
As Debbie continues to move, portions of Virginia bracing for heavy rainfall as well. Officials giving away free sandbags to help people protect their homes.
I'm just trying to be cautious about getting some sand to prevent flooding in my cellar.
Forecasters say residents as far north as Vermont could get several inches of rain this weekend. In Raleigh, North Carolina, I'm Chelsea Torres, Fox News.
Thank you, Chelsea. Now to an update out of the district. The ABC board will hold a hearing regarding the King Street Oyster Bar in Northeast to determine if they'll take their alcohol license away. This decision comes after the restaurant was shut down following a deadly shooting that police say took place right outside their doors. The bar was reopened yesterday. An emergency ANC town hall is set to take place tonight at 6 to discuss the impact on the community. Montgomery County renters, there's new information for you. There are new laws on the books that are fighting harder to protect you.
So when we talk about these changes, they were pushed for by a family whose daughter was a county renter. The young woman died after an apartment building fire last year. Fox 5's Stephanie Ramirez there for today's bill signing.
Guys, each and every Montgomery County leader today thanked the parents of that young woman killed. These parents live in Florida. They are still dealing with the pain and agony of losing a child, but they still kept fighting for these some 1 million residents right here in Montgomery County, where about half of them are renters.
I promised to my daughter and the community to fight for.
It was an emotional bill signing day. Cesar Diaz receiving a standing ovation before helping to usher in the Tenant Fire Safety and Notification Bill 724. The bill now requires landlords in their leases to clearly state whether the building or dwelling has automatic sprinklers, clearly state who's responsible for replacing items damaged in an emergency, provide their emergency plan, notify residents or tenants of service disruptions, and now provide a 24-hour hotline so building staff can be reached in an emergency after hours.
This is the beginning from something big. You know, I don't want to say it's made me happy because it's not. You know, that's something we have to working for, and we're working for the last year and a half. You know, for this, and like I said before to everybody, I promise to my daughter in the community to fight for their rights, because I don't want anybody, you know, have the same pain we feel as family.
The Florida father has been pushing for change ever since his daughter, 25-year-old Melanie Diaz, died trying to escape a fire inside the massive Arrive Silver Spring apartment in February 2023. The Georgetown graduate was found in a stairwell with her dogs, the smoke just too much for them to withstand. That apartment building did not have automatic sprinklers. There is a law requiring older buildings be retrofitted for them, but they have until 2033 to do so. In the meantime, Councilmember Kate Stewart introduced this fire safety bill after both Diaz's death and another 2023 incident where power went out in a senior citizen building.
I was there the weekend of the Arrive fire, talking to our emergency services folks, talking to our fire department about what happened, talking to the hundreds of residents who were displaced, and the lack of information about where to go, how to evacuate, what to do, the lack of information about, some of them were shocked to know they didn't even have sprinklers in their apartments because the building had been recently renovated. And this is all information that if people had had it ahead of time, you know, we can only imagine how we could have prevented loss like the life of Melanie Diaz. So I absolutely think this is going to make a big difference.
This was a ceremonial signing, so this law is currently in effect. We're told that the parents are also working on pushing for changes statewide as well. I'll send it back to you.
A new cross-honoring agreement will benefit riders using Maryland and Virginia's transit systems. Under this agreement, passengers using the Maryland Area Regional Commuter System can now board Virginia Railway Express, VRE, trains without having to buy a new ticket. And it applies to weekly or monthly pass holders from either provider.
Now to some top caught-on-camera moments. It was a rough ride for visitors on the Alice in Wonderland ride in Disneyland. Now, the ride malfunctioned, right? Slamming the carriage into a set of doors. The ride stopped right after that. Staff came over and checked everything out. They're looking at what's going on with this thing. Well, it's okay. No one was hurt. So they continued on with the rest of the ride.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
I mean, it's kind of like a real-life experience of going down the rabbit hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I would think that it was part of the attraction. So, I mean, have you ever been on the Frozen one down there? It, like, jerks you. I mean, I thought I was going to have to go to the chiropractor after that.
Yeah.
Okay, head out to Colorado where black bears have been breaking into people's homes. Shocker.
Oh, we just went through the window.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, security video showing you exactly how they did it. Apparently, it's been happening a whole lot. So police in Colorado Springs, they're giving out some standard advice. Bring in those bird feeders. Secure your garbage. Don't leave out any picnic baskets.
Then he looks out again.
Don't feed the bears.
He came in the garage, looked around. I guess he didn't see any food, and he says right back out. Now he's just wandering in the neighborhood.
I know.
All right, let's head right over to West Virginia. I'm sure they know a lot about bears, but we're not talking about a bear. We're talking about a man. A man caught a state record catfish using his daughter's pink fishing rod. And this wasn't like a professional fishing rod, right? No, this was different. Take a look. The catfish was almost 4 feet long, weighing in at just shy of 47 pounds, and the rod he used cost $10, belonging to his 3-year-old daughter.
Now, do you throw that back in, Marina, or do we make catfish fingers out of it?
For his daughter than maybe the catfish fingers, but I would say she definitely deserves a part of that prize. It was her rod. Let's not forget.
Now, I caught my first catfish recently with my buddy Easy Street, and I had a really nice fishing pole, not a $10 one that belongs to a little kid.
Did you eat it or did you throw it back?
I threw it back.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so it'll come here in trending. We're talking about a statue of Marilyn Monroe. Some people who live near it, they hated it. They wanted it moved. They got their way. We'll tell you why when we come back.
All right, time now to say hi to Marina.
Hey, Marina.
Hey guys, happy Thursday. It turns out that most parents are happy to have their adult kids move back home. A new survey of parents with their kids in their 20s showing that 85% are excited to have their kids come back to the nest. The average time a 20-something spends living back home, 16 months. And to this, I defer to Shamari. How do you feel about this?
Absolutely not. My kids are off to college. They got their own apartments. They have their own lives, and they are not coming back unless, God forbid, there was a pandemic or an emergency. Otherwise, you're on your own.
I like that. I moved out at 17. I never went back home. So
Exactly.
I think there's something to be said about just flying and setting up your own space and your own, you know, track in life.
Yeah, we prepared them to this moment. What about you, Angie?
I was a little bit of a boomerang kid in the sense that, you know, I left to go work the whole broadcast circuit, went to California, Iowa, South Carolina, finally made my way back home, was married, but still cheaper to live with the parents, hometown Herndon.
Yeah.
So I moved back into my old room, and it wasn't until I was expecting a child, they were like, yeah, you might want to get your own place. So I got kicked out. But yeah, but my mom would still, her dream was for all of us to grow up and everybody to live under one house. You know, kind of like in Encanto, when I see that big house, I'm like, this is what my mom wanted. So that hasn't happened yet, but we're all at least still in the area, which I think parents also enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends. Different families, different strokes for different folks.
Well
A
said.
giant statue of Marilyn Monroe will be moved from its current spot in Palm Springs, California. It is 26 feet tall, depicting a scene from the 1955 movie, The 7-Year Itch. In that scene, her dress, as we know, iconically is blown up by a Manhattan subway grate. Well, some locals complained the statue was sexist because kids could see her underwear.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
The statue is
Really?
iconic. But anyways, the city council has decided to move it to a less visible part of town. Hey, here's a news flash, city council. People are still going to drive to go see it regardless.
And seriously, can we just calm down with this like sexist stuff? Listen, what's wrong with celebrating femininity?
And panties.
Right? And an iconic, and bloomers, pantalones.
I'll let you guys
that's
handle
not even
this
underwear
conversation.
anymore.
I'm not involved
She's wearing
in this
shorts.
Yeah,
Have
give me
you
a
seen
break.
the thongs? Have you walked in
Hey, by
Victoria's
the
Secret
way,
lately?
they're not real. It's a statue, so there's that too.
By the way,
man.
that's really annoying.
All right, we're getting our producer's telling us enough. Thank you guys.
All right, moving along. You can see I was quiet on that one. We're looking at a live look right here. You can see it is really cloudy outside, and as Caitlin Roth has been telling us, we are going to be feeling the effects on and off from Storm Debbie.
Yeah,
He's a good man. He knows when to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of breezes, right? By the way, we all like a nice cool breeze. So I still don't even understand that. Scratching my head on that one. So we've noticed.
Yeah, we've got some breezes.
We've got some breezes out there.
Debbie's breezes.
How's that for a segue? But more importantly, I will say, I think I texted you yesterday because I got caught in one of those.
You did.
Those real quick downpours, and it was to the point where I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it happened so fast, and you can't see. The windshield wipers cannot go fast enough, and you have to pull over. So, I mean, this is real serious stuff to consider.
It is, and the rain will be like that, downpours, that off and on, and then just more on than off through tonight and into tomorrow. And also remember, late tonight, it's dark, it's pouring rain, there's low visibility, there's road spray, really tough, and a lot of hazards as you head out both late tonight and tomorrow morning. So the Friday morning commute, absolutely going to be impacted by Debbie, as some of the heaviest of the rain will be rolling up on us early tomorrow morning. So it's 80 degrees in D.C. right now. We're kind of getting the teaser round of Debbie, meaning scattered showers and some embedded downpours, but the real heavy stuff is still to our south. There has been a nice cooling effect. Temperatures are only in the 70s and low 80s. Here's most of Debbie's steady rains from about Richmond through Charlottesville. And if you can see the direction of this, it's moving more northwest than due north. So as expected, most of our mountainous regions up the Appalachians and into western sections of Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania will see the heaviest of the rain. That is a tornado watch to our south, so the tornado threat will be over us late tonight, early tomorrow morning. There is usually a tornado component to most tropical systems due to the large-scale rotation. So Storm Tracker radar right now does show those pockets of downpours. Most have moved north and west of D.C., but you've got a couple over Loudoun County back towards the mountains. And then you've got this one stretch from northern Prince George's County back through Montgomery County, so heavy rain crossing 95 and just kind of straddling the Howard and Montgomery County line. into the night, we will see the rain increase in coverage and intensity so that by 7, 8 o'clock, after a bit of a lull, maybe this evening, we've got more rain filling in and then heavy rain at that. Thunderstorms are possible too as we get deeper into tonight. So this is 10:30, could be a soaking rain pretty much everywhere, D.C. and points west. Notice to the east, it's very dry. The whole track of the low is pivoting kind of away from the coast and more inland. This is 2 a.m. showing you some of those feeder bands that will bring with it that rotating threat. So could be within some storms that produce tornado warnings overnight tonight, early tomorrow morning. That's why you want to have your phone set to those alerts in case any of those warnings are issued. This is midday tomorrow. We're pretty much done. So it is going to be an active overnight and Friday morning, but then we will see everything move out very, very quickly. Rainfall amounts are heaviest to the west where we have that flood watch in effect. I mean, it could only be an inch here, a little less than that along the bay, but substantial 4+ inches of rain in the areas, of course, that need it the most. The tornado threat, again, highlighted in yellow, mostly to the west. So that concern will be more later tonight into tomorrow. Luckily, it gets much better for the weekend. I'll have more on that coming up in your 7-day. Angie?
Thank you, Caitlin. Still to come this hour, we're going to explain why Virginia voters can expect to see paper ballots on Election Day. We're hearing from the governor when we return.
Welcome back, you guys. We're less than 3 months from the November presidential election, and Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin is ordering all votes for the election be cast by paper ballots.
So Youngkin issued Executive Order 35 yesterday, which codifies election security protocols established under his governance for all future elections. He spoke with our Katie Barlow about that today. Let's take a listen.
I am not suggesting that there's widespread voter fraud, but I also firmly believe that continuous improvement is a critical part of being a good governor. And our election process needs to continually be improved upon. What we recognize is that Virginia, as the crucible of democracy for this nation, should also set the standard for security around our elections. And that's what we set out to do. We want to make sure that our voter rolls are clean and trustworthy. And of course, what we found by using some of these new data processes and appropriately scrubbing our voter lists every day is that we found 80,000 folks that had passed away that were still in the voter rolls last year. And of course, since our administration started, we found over 6,000 non-citizens that were on the voter rolls that shouldn't have been on the voter rolls. And so this is a continuous improvement process. I'm very proud of the work that we've done. Executive Order 35 codifies the daily process that we use. Congress just acknowledged that Virginia has one of, if not the best, clean voter roll processes. And this hopefully translates into a sense of trust and faith by all Virginians that they are not only keeping non-citizens from voting, but we, of course, are counting their votes correctly.
And you can, of course, see more of Katie's interview with Governor Youngkin this Sunday night at 11:30 on In the Courts.
Coming up next, a D.C. government official accused of doing work for another job while on the clock for the district. We're breaking down all those details.
Plus, Caitlin Roth, very busy today in the Fox 5 Storm Center. She is back with us, timing out all the rain and the wind from Tropical Storm Debbie and how it's going to impact you where you live. But first, Fox 5's Bob Barnard with a look at what he's working on today. Hi, Bob.
Hey there, Angie and Shamari. The man accused of murdering a little boy at a 4th of July block party makes his first court appearance here in Prince George's County today. We'll tell you what happened when Fox 5 at 4 returns.
Welcome back, everyone. Here's a look at some of the top stories we're following. 15 people are without a place to stay after an early morning apartment fire at the Lockwood Apartments in Silver Spring just before 6 a.m. The fire was started by an issue with a fan motor, according to fire officials, and crews were able to quickly get it under control. One firefighter was hurt, but he's expected to be okay. 6 apartments have been condemned. The fire is believed to have been caused around $600,000 worth of damage.
Another fire in Montgomery County, this one on Blue Heron Lane in Gaithersburg. Firefighters called just after 9:30 this morning. We know one person was rescued from the basement. Another was helped out of the home. Firefighters determining now that the fire did start in the sunroom.
The deputy director of D.C.'s Department of Buildings has resigned. This comes just days after a Board of Ethics investigation found Carolyn Leon was working with a separate full-time job with Freddie Mac during her telework days. Leon, who is also a Falls Church City Council member, allegedly took part in council business while on the clock for the district. She was fined $25,000 and is no longer part of D.C. government.
Okay, let's go back outside, because this is our top story today with widespread impact wherever you live here in the DMV. And we're talking about Debbie and the remnants of it and what it can do here.
And Angie, I just want to say this. If you come across standing water in your car, do not try and drive through it. So many times over the years I've reported on people who say, oh, I can just plow right through it. And then, you know, they're submerged and then they have to be rescued. And then you also put the fire and EMS officials, put them at risk while they're trying to rescue you. So I'm going to use that cliche, turn around and don't drown.
Yeah, Caitlin, definitely not the time to experiment to see if your car floats.
No, save that for, well, just don't ever do it. Certainly not in a tropical storm, you guys. It's been a while since we've had really impactful weather like this. Heavy rain, flooding, wind, and yes, the severe weather component, all thanks to Tropical Storm Debbie. Will likely become a tropical depression or post-tropical low shortly, but in the meantime, actually, no, I take that back. Our 5 o'clock advisory just came in, and it is now no longer a tropical storm. So Debbie, sustained winds of 35 miles an hour, is a remnant low, but it's all the same thing. Heavy rain pushing up from the south and filling in. We've had showers off and on. We've had downpours at various times throughout the day, but we will start to get into this mode of just all rain all the time through the rest of the evening, overnight, and through the day tomorrow. So temperatures are mostly in the 70s. Overnight is when things are kind of cranking the hardest. You've got showers and thunderstorms. You've got heavy rain off to the west. You could be getting several inches very quickly. That flood threat is high. That tornado threat is actually high just because we usually see that when tropical storms move by certain sections of the storm. There is still a conditional tornado threat through tomorrow morning. We will start off with heavy rain. We will clear into the afternoon. It looks much better by day's end. I'll have more on that weekend coming up in your 7-day. Back to you.
Thank you, Caitlin. The man arrested in South America charged with shooting and killing a little boy at a 4th of July block party in Prince George's County will remain behind bars in Maryland. Rakeem Gilgores made his first court appearance in Upper Marlboro this afternoon. And Fox 5's Bob Barnard is there with the very latest. Hi, Bob.
Hey there, Angie. The man charged with shooting and killing Asan Payton was ordered held without bond by a judge here at Prince George's County District Court today. She called the accused killer a danger to the community.
Asan Payton was just 6 years old, lived in the district, died 2 days after being shot on the 4th of July. He was part of a gathering celebrating Independence Day on Akron Street in Temple Hills. The gunfire just before 8 o'clock that night, also wounding 2 adults, a man and a woman, who survived their injuries. Prince George's County Police have charged 33-year-old Rakeem Gilgores with second-degree murder, assault, and reckless endangerment. The accused, a father of 3, was arrested in South America. Authorities say he flew to Guyana on July 8th, had $12,000 in cash on him when police placed him in custody.
And we will do everything in our power, again, to get justice for Asan, because he deserved to be here. At 6 years old, he had his whole life ahead of him.
Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy says they do believe a second gunman was involved, but neither she nor Assistant State's Attorney Sherry Waldrop would speak of a possible motive behind the shooting.
It was not a drive-by. Mr. Gilgores was someone who was attending the event that day.
Besides calling him a danger to the community, the judge says Rakeem Gilgores has several aliases: previous parole violations, prior convictions for assault, and has his own private transportation company.
Prosecutors say it was tips from the community that led to his arrest. He's due back in court here September 6th. Angie?
All right, thank you, Bob.
Still to come, it's that time of the year, Angie. You know I absolutely love it. High school football season is right around the corner, and our Chad Ricardo is getting you ready to turn on those Friday night lights.
Woo, and a heads up for all you foodies out there. DC Restaurant Week, it kicks off next week. So much to look forward to. What you need to know to score some deals, that's coming up at 5.